All right, is this thing on?
Yeah.
Hey, what's happening? Nice crowd here. All right, what's up everyone? We are here in Quincy. We got a little crowd here. What's happening? How you doing? I'm gonna talk to these cops real quick. There we go. How you doing? So is this invitation only to get in the hotel? Okay. Where is it being held? Do you know the event? Is it on the deck?
Yeah, there's like a function room in the back.
Okay. And this is a hotel, correct? Okay. And you have to have like an invitation in hand to get in?
And then the hotel also, they're checking to make sure that they're registered guests.
Is this because we said we're coming here?
I assume so.
Okay.
This is right. He's got a next stop, right? Yeah, next. Yeah,
next one. Yeah, his kids are right there.
All right, nice to see a good crowd here in Quincy. We're here for justice for John O'Keefe and free Karen Reed. Because the scumbag who is responsible for this sham prosecution.
Yeah, no way, that's the street. We could just tuck right here.
Stop in front of me.
Yeah. So, my man.
And the cover-up of the murder of a Boston police officer is going to be waddling his fat butt inside this hotel to stuff sausage down his face with his other corrupt scumbag friends.
How you doing? Here for a second. Come here for a second.
What?
You got a warrant.
For what?
You got multiple arrest warrants.
For what?
You have to talk to Norfolk about it. We're just...
The indictment for Aidan's arrest was signed by former lead detective Brian Tully, Michael Morrissey's henchman. Lead henchman.
They know more about it than me, dude. I don't know anything about it.
Am I going to Holden Barracks?
Yep. So we're going to bring you to Holden for a quick booking, and then you're going to go to Stoughton District Court.
And we're here to remind him, because he wants us to stop. I don't know if you guys heard that the other day. Michael Morrissey made a little video, a cute little Friday video.
This will be the first statement of its kind in my dozen years as Norfolk District Attorney. The harassment of witnesses in the murder prosecution of Karen Reed is absolutely baseless. It should be an outrage to any decent person, and it needs to stop.
And he said, you guys need to stop. You need to be nice to Jen McCabe.
So we have a couple search warrants too.
Search warrant?
He's okay? He's okay?
Else in the house? No. Well, hold on, we just want to talk to this man. Make sure you speak rights. You have the right to remain silent. You choose to speak. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to consult with a lawyer before answering any questions, if you can have him or her with you during questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer or want one, a lawyer will be provided you by the Commonwealth before questioning at no cost to you. You may answer questions now and waive.
It's okay.
That means you give up.
I get it.
Let me finish, please.
You gotta be nice to him. They can't even kill a cop and get away with it without having their feelings hurt. And he told us all to stop. They want you to stop.
And your right to counsel and have a right to remain silent. If you decide to talk to me, you still have the right to stop at any time for any reason. You understand the right to recognize. Okay.
Yeah, I'll get you everything.
Yep. What was the charge? Intimidation of a witness.
Which witness?
So, all the things regarding Karen Reed.
These proceedings are here to see that justice is done. And justice is, as any reasonable person would tell you, the finding of the truth. Only we have a problem here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the I Don't Belong Here show, and I am your host, Samantha Benigno. And as you know, I'm a behavioral scientist, a career psychotherapist, a 6th-year PhD candidate in clinical psychology, a master's level psychologist and counselor. And today we are talking about the criminal charges against Aidan Kearney, otherwise known as Turtleboy.
But yeah, we are getting closer to July 1st, which means when we hit July 1st, we will be 5 months away from my scheduled trial date. And, that'll be here before you know it. If not, maybe it'll get dismissed with the motion to dismiss on July 20th. You never know.
Look, this is Massachusetts, and what I've learned about these judges, it almost doesn't matter what anybody argues, what the merits are of those arguments. Their big response, their big rebuttal is, well, we'll let a jury decide. It's like, yeah, who cares if the law supports any of this bullshit? We'll let a jury take care of it. This way it doesn't fall on my ass. I don't get the political heat or backlash that's going to come as a result of doing what is right. In this case, throwing the case of witness intimidation against Aidan Kearney out the door. And that's what we are going to focus on here today. We are going to focus on the witness intimidation case against Aidan Kearney. And in just a few short moments, I am going to show you just how completely absurd and, let's not forget, totally corrupt these charges against Aidan really are.
Witness intimidation in Massachusetts occurs when someone attempts to interfere with a witness's ability to provide truthful testimony or cooperate in a legal matter. This could mean anything from threatening a witness, pressuring them to stay silent, or influencing them to change their story. It's important to understand that witness intimidation can happen before, during, or after a court case, and it doesn't have to involve physical violence. The key factor in these cases is intent. The key factor in these cases is intent. Intent. Whether the actions were meant to obstruct justice.
We have to get into the background because it's critical to understanding what is happening here and what continues to happen as we move forward. Aidan Kearney, prior to picking up the Karen Read case, was a bit of a kind of right-wing journalistic blogger, activist guy.
My name is Aidan Kearney, also known as Turtleboy.
He is a senior editor for Turtleboy Daily News.
I'm a big fan. We've broken hundreds of stories that the mainstream media won't touch.
Some blogger in Massachusetts who's getting to the bottom of this better than anybody.
Why is it Turtleboy that is covering such important issues? Where is the rest of the media?
You did not say that you were going to take my baby out of her vent and make him a transgender baby.
Stop it. People don't like the things that I say and want me to stop saying them, but I won't. I'm never going to stop. These are the kind of stories that must be told.
Aidan does not make a secret of his political leanings. And prior to the Karen Read stuff, he had been covering politics and specifically exposing what he saw as corruption on the left.
We are not allowed to use the super chat function that other channels are allowed to use because we had the wrong opinion about the vaccine mandate about a year and a half ago. I had the wrong opinions about that. So I'm not allowed to collect money from you. Even though if you want to give me money, you couldn't do it because my opinions are bad. You get it? So I'm dangerous. I'm too dangerous for you to give money to. At least give money to, and then they take 40%.
I can't wait for a Jussie rant. I know Jussie has. I've ranted about Jussie so many times on this podcast. Actually,
an update on the story. One of the stars of the TV show Empire that is shot here in Chicago was apparently the victim of a hate crime very early this morning.
Smollett says he left a Streeterville subway, was walking home at around 2 a.m. when he was attacked. He says 2 people in masks yelled racial and homophobic slurs at him, beat him, poured some kind of chemical on him, then put a rope around his neck. He watched a Northwestern hospital for treatment and filed a police report.
Your very name has become an adverb for lying. And I cannot imagine what could be worse than that.
Jussie Smollett is officially a suspect.
Jussie Smollett took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career.
now that he's been completely exposed and arrested, it's kind of not as fun. I liked the chase of it all. So, what I wanted to talk about today, the first thing I wanted to talk about was something that's been all over the news, and that is Trump's freaking latest freaking meltdown over on Twitter. And I posted on Facebook about 15 minutes ago. I'll read it out loud. It says, "Do you think President Trump's tweets were racist?" All right. So here's this guy right here, Jacob Blake. This is in 2015 this happened. This is an article from 2015. Not exactly ancient history. He was charged Monday. I assume most of you guys have seen this video. So they're telling him to stop. They've tried tasing him at this point. It's not working. He just keeps on going. Okay? He's holding something, going towards the car, not listening. They try to grab him. Now he's got 3 kids in the car too. And now they shoot him right there. With 1 felony count of resisting arrest after causing a soft tissue injury to a police officer and 1 misdemeanor count each of carrying a concealed weapon.
Here's why this is important. The McAlberts, the people in the house at 34 Fairview, Chris and Julie Albert, Brian and Nicole Albert, Jen and Matt McCabe, they happen to agree with Aidan Kearney's political leanings.
I guess there was frustration that a community member who was a little bit of a conservative would win a seat in Canton. That irked many. Personally, I never look at Canton politics as having left or right. I always looked at it as having members to do work with in the best interest of Canton. Not to force an ideology down the throats of our community.
And for that reason, they were quite clearly very familiar with who Turtleboy was.
Karen Reed alerted to me and she's like, "You'll never guess what we found in John's phone." And she sends it to me. It's a text message of Julie Albert saying that.
Karen Reed would eventually stumble across a text message from Julie Albert to John O'Keefe saying that one of her worst fears in life is being on Turtleboy.
And she ended up on Turtleboy like 1,000 times.
There it is. Oh my God. Oh my God. No joke. Oh my God. Wait a minute. I think I have an idea of who the girl is going to add.
Well, the girl in the story. So John sent her a copy of a story I'd written. And he's like, "Oh my God, I read it this morning." So they're fans of mine. They read my stuff. And he said, "That is my worst fear, ending up on Turtleboy." No joke.
You just can't make this up. Even John O'Keefe seemed to know who Turtleboy was. He is a local celebrity. He was a local celebrity before all of the Karen Reed stuff. Turtleboy was known locally as the journalist who would expose and cover and uncover all of the stories that the mainstream media wouldn't touch. This is how he defined himself. This is his brand. This is who he was. And to all of these people who knew him locally, that is who he is. It is quite clear to the McAlberts, to the House defendants, or whatever they want to call themselves these days, it is beyond crystal clear what Aidan's intentions here were. And I promise it certainly wasn't to keep them from testifying. Nobody knew that more than this group, because they knew who he was, they knew what he was all about, and they knew better than anyone that his intention was to uncover the corruption that they themselves are taking part in. So their little testify campaign, it's just so dishonest. And of course it is, because these people can't tell the truth, as we all know, to save their freaking lives.
All I can answer is that I sleep with my phone in my bed. That's just what I do.
What else is in the bed with you? Your keys, your wallet, any other pocket items?
No.
Just the phone and your glasses?
Yes.
And Nicole's phone?
Yes.
Right between the two of you?
Usually, yes.
You say you inadvertently called him at 2:22 in the morning.
Yes.
How did you inadvertently call him?
Well, I don't know because it was inadvertent.
So I have to explain that.
Well, it's kind of like a butt dial.
You indicated previously at a different hearing in June of 2023 that you were, quote, hanging out with your wife, and you must have butt dialed Mr. Higgins, correct?
Yes.
At 2:22 and 35 seconds on January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
You were asked how that could have happened, much like I just asked how that could have happened, right?
Yes.
And in that hearing, you said, quote, I'm not totally sure. And here you added that it could have been a butt dial.
Yes.
You were then called back to that same hearing, but at a different date, an ongoing hearing, right?
Yes.
That was in July of 2023, correct?
Yes.
You then changed your testimony and said, and I don't mean to be indelicate, but your testimony was then that you were in an intimate situation, I'll put it that way, with Nicole at the time. And that's how you butt dialed Brian Higgins, correct?
I don't believe I said that's how I butt dialed Brian Higgins.
That's the time.
I think I said there was a time frame that was close.
Okay.
And that's what is so aggravating about these cases, particularly the ones against Turtleboy, because they're just fundamentally dishonest. I mean, these people are fundamentally dishonest. And in a way, they're mocking us.
And hundreds of supporters in pink, Karen Reed's favorite color, cheering as the verdict came down yesterday.
I could not be standing here without these amazing supporters.
People turned this thing into a tailgate party, it looked like, some days. Board games, cornhole, cookouts. This is a guy that was murdered, and it's atrocious for that family.
Or running around in his underwear.
What am I supposed to do? Run out front in my underwear and start running yellow tape around the fire hydrant?
Or the 30 to 50 people that would be in on the conspiracy.
You do realize for this conspiracy to be true, it would take 30 to 50 people. You'd have to have multiple cops on 2 different police departments, multiple civilians, the medical examiner, firemen, EMTs, you name it. That's how preposterous and silly this is.
These are all ways for him to have some fun and stick it up our. And along those lines, Brian Albert's big Testify campaign does precisely the same thing. Our mission is to protect and empower witnesses and victims of crime who face retaliation, harassment, or defamation just for fulfilling their civic duty. We ensure vulnerable people are not alone when they stand up for what's right. Through advocacy, education, and collaboration, we work to promote protection of witnesses and their rights. It is the most absurd cover you have ever seen in your life. And that is what they are doing, folks. They are standing behind this, quote, mission to make it seem like they're innocent snowflakes that are just looking out for the rights of witnesses. Because it's just so obvious that Brian Albert cares deeply about the lives of those who are vulnerable.
People like, she doesn't owe you anything. You didn't do anything for her. I was literally her voice.
Things are about to get really uncomfortable for you now, just to let you know that. Especially Now that I know that I'm getting to you, that was a mistake.
Never mind the fact that there's enough evidence for a biased and corrupt judge to actually allow Karen Reed to present a third-party culprit defense to begin with. Had to be some there, no? Because I promise you that judge, Judge Beverly Cannoni, would have done anything and everything she could possibly think to do to protect Brian Higgins and Brian Albert if it wasn't for the fact that there was evidence, legitimate evidence, that suggests they could have been involved. And had a real investigation by real investigators been conducted, guess what? They would be convicted of murder. Because you know what didn't happen here? Karen Reed and her Lexus did not make contact with the physical body of John O'Keefe. The injuries on John O'Keefe's body could not, were not, did not come from making contact with a vehicle. Period. Full stop. And in order for you to think anything else, you have to believe that science and physics is just not a thing, and are basing your opinion about whether or not Karen Reed commit murder on a hunch, a vibe that the victim's mom felt from her son's girlfriend, who she obviously didn't like very much at all, hours after she found him dead and frozen on someone's front lawn. Not to mention, overlook the countless examples of perjury that all of these witnesses, all these House defendants, all these innocent witnesses who were so intimidated by a guy who calls himself Turtleboy, you'd have to believe that all those counts of perjury that they just had no problem committing apparently were for no reason whatsoever. Now, we know for sure, thanks to John O'Keefe, oh, the irony, that these people were abundantly, without a shadow of a doubt, 100% clear about who Turtleboy was. They knew him. They listened to his program. They were absolutely familiar with what he could do, what he could uncover, and what he's done to people. The fact that he's exposed people, the fact that he's caused a lot of upheaval in people's lives by doing that exposing. Nobody knew better than these guys. They knew who he was, and because of that, as soon as his first story on this case drops, they go into an absolute panic. April 18th, 2023. The first Canton cover-up in Aidan's 800-plus part series on the John O'Keefe case drops. The article got 500,000 page views. Unbelievable. And this was a response, a reaction. His very first article on this case is a reaction to the very large motion that Karen's team dropped on April 12th. This is exactly what journalists do. They wait for filings to drop, and then they report on those filings. That is how a lot of these reporters write their stories, make their money, find a lead. That's what journalism is. And importantly, we must recognize the timeline of these charges. April 12th, Karen's team drops that filing with all of the Google search and the dog bite and all of the really salacious details about what was going on in the house at 34 Fairview. He then writes his first story days later. And all of this just so happens to be days after the feds show up at Jennifer McCabe's front door. And so what do these, quote, witnesses do? They run to Michael Morrissey to put pressure on him to try to stop Aidan Kearney.
Innuendo is not evidence. False narratives are not evidence. However, what evidence does show is that John O'Keefe never entered the home at 34 Fairview Road in Canton the night he died. Location data from his phone.
The device arrived outside 34 Fairview at 12:24:38, where it remained static for about 30 seconds. Do you see that, sir?
I do, yes.
And did I read that correctly?
You did.
Recovered from the lawn beneath his body when he was transported to the hospital. Shows that this phone did not enter that home.
At the end of it says, show the device moving west from the roadside towards the house. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
11 people have given statements that they did not see John O'Keefe enter the home at 34 Fairview that night. 0 people have said that they saw him enter the home. 0. No one.
I pull at the foot of the driveway. It's snowing. John has no coat on. It's windy. So I drop him off. He goes up the driveway, and I saw him reach the breezeway door, which is the side front door. And he opened the door and went to walk in.
Some have, without any evidence, pointed to 18-year-old Colin Albert.
Colin Albert wasn't even interviewed by the police until 18 months afterwards, and only in regards to witness intimidation.
A nephew of the homeowner, and accused him of attacking John O'Keefe as he entered the home. But phone evidence shows O'Keefe never entered the home at all.
At 25:30, the device bearing shifts to a westerly direction, as location records also show the device moving west from the roadside towards the house.
Testimony from witnesses tell us that 18-year-old Colin Albert had left his uncle's home before John O'Keefe and Karen Reed had arrived outside the residence.
What's interesting is that his name was never in any report. We were turned on to him by Scanlon, or turned on to the nephew by Scanlon, and then had information that Colin and John had a beef, and it was kind of like, it was all fitting together.
There was no fight inside that home. John O'Keefe did not enter the home.
So the first part is again a statement that the device has started to move toward the house. This location data is immediately followed by 12 minutes of low accuracy records which offer no reliable location information.
Colin Albert, the young man being vilified, was not present when Reed's vehicle and John O'Keefe arrived on the street.
And so 1225 plus 12 is 1237. The reason for such low accuracy location data at this time is not known, as there are many possible reasons why the accuracy was be reduced. There's a little grammar issue there. This could include reasons such as the device entered a building covered area.
This is a false narrative. Colin Albert didn't commit murder.
His existence at the house was hidden, despite the fact that Steve Scanlon somehow knew he was there that night. Colin claimed that he was home in bed by 12:30, but yet at 12:33, minutes after Reed left 34 Fairview and John O'Keefe's phone moved for the last time, Colin called a friend named Erin Beatty. She didn't answer, as kids at that age almost never call each other, and when she contacted him the next day, he goes, never mind.
Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, and Brian Albert. These people were not part of a conspiracy.
At some point you talked to Tom Beatty, correct?
I never spoke with Tom.
I'm sorry, my mistake. I misspoke. You called Tom Beatty.
Yes, I called Tom Beatty.
Did not get through to Tom Beatty.
I didn't, no one answered, yes. Oh, and Tom Beatty, I'm sorry.
Right. So in both of those statements, to Trooper Prince when you were asked about your communications, and at the grand jury, by the way, at the grand jury, when you were asked who you communicated that morning, who you communicated with that morning, you didn't need to see a report, did you? You didn't ask to see a report, like you're doing here.
Well, I'm asking because you're asking specific questions about what I said on a specific day. And depending on who's asking the question, they ask questions in a different manner.
Certainly did not commit murder or any crime that night.
So the answer is always going to be the same. If you ask me who I spoke to, I'm always going to tell you I spoke to Miss Reed and Julie. I called Julie Albert and I called Tom Beatty. The answer is always the same, but the way the question asked and maybe some of the words that I use may be different than Tom Beatty. Calling to my sister wasn't as important ingrained in my mind at that point. No.
For telling people this story, Erin Beatty and her father, Tom Beatty, were harassed and ostracized by adults in the Canton community. Jennifer McCabe and her friend Jill Thomas reportedly told 17-year-old Erin Beatty to, quote, put a dick in your mouth instead of talking so much.
Keep walking. Just keep walking. Nobody wants you. Let's go, Green!
Still got everybody around you, right?
You do. Go be by yourself.
For how long?
Chris Albert confronted Tom Beatty and tried to get him to say that Colin never called Erin that night. They were going out of their way to pressure the Beatty family to lie and cover for Colin. Since Colin didn't speak with police and his parents did the speaking for him, an alibi for Colin was finally presented at trial, claiming that he was picked up by Jennifer McCabe's daughter, Allie, at 12:10.
Ms. McCabe, you have known Colin Albert your whole life, correct?
Correct.
You and Colin are extremely close, correct?
Yes. He was not at the house when John was there, so.
Now, you claim that you took a screenshot of a text conversation that you had with Colin Albert.
And have not engaged in any cover-up.
It's fair to say that on January 29th, 30th, 31st, you did not turn over that screenshot to any law enforcement official, correct, of 2022?
No, I was never asked.
So not only is this extra information, meaning she is interjecting this, she's offering it. She wants us to hear this because the simple right answer here would have been no. But look at the way she phrases the answer. No, I was never asked. And that makes us have to throw up a flag. Why? Because never, inherently, when it's used in this way, as a blanket way to replace no, or to say never, as in not in the past, not in the present, and not in the future, it's a flag.
You never called an investigator to say, hey, I have a copy of a screenshot of a text message conversation that I had with Colin Albert, correct?
No, it wouldn't have been relevant at that time.
Holy shit. All right, guys. Well, this was a significant bombshell to me. To me, this was significant. I cannot believe I didn't catch it before, but I've got it now. The way that she has said this has always bothered me. And I kept looking at it today, and I kept looking at it, and something is wrong. What is wrong with this statement? What is wrong with this statement? So let's go through it. First, let's take a look at the question. This is important.
You never called an investigator to say, hey, I have a copy of a screenshot of a text message conversation that I had with Colin Albert, correct?
So here, Yannetti says, you never called an investigator to say, hey, I have a copy of a screenshot of a text message conversation that I had with Colin Albert. This is a clear yes or no question answer. So anything that is not yes or no is extra information. That means this is something that Allie McCabe wants us to know. She's going above and beyond what she has to in order to make sure and communicate these words. That makes them extremely important to Allie. What were those words? You can't even make this up. What she says is, no, it wouldn't have been relevant at that time. Now, wouldn't, it's a theoretical way to frame something. Well, yeah, I mean, if I wanted to go snow skiing tomorrow and it was 90 degrees, then I wouldn't be able to go snow skiing tomorrow, not unless I fly somewhere else to do it. It is a reference to the conversation that she had, allegedly, back then with Colin. So what she's saying is, that conversation wouldn't have been relevant at that time. In other words, if that conversation happened, it wouldn't have been relevant at that time because nobody knew that Colin was at the house yet. Now, all of us gave her a pass here because we assumed that the wouldn't was a reference to at that time. In other words, the theoretical part of what she's holding in her mind is the fact that nobody knew Colin was at the house yet. But if those text messages existed, if she really did take Colin home and they had that whole interaction, then the way this statement would have come out in court with Yannetti is it wasn't relevant at that time. The conversation with Colin wasn't relevant at that time. The reason that she says it wouldn't have been is because the actual communication with Colin didn't exist yet. There was no communication with Colin. The hypothetical part of what is in her mind as these words are coming out is the conversation with Colin Albert, not whether everyone knew that Colin was at 34 Fairview at that time. This is classic leakage. This is when we say leakage, this is what we're talking about. In other words, no matter what you're holding in your mind that we can't see, your brain is subconsciously picking what words to put together outside of your conscious awareness. And it's these types of words, the ones that you are not carefully, artfully crafting, that just slip out based on the images that you're holding in your mind. Because Allie knows that conversation didn't exist yet, she can't say it wasn't relevant at that time. She instead says it wouldn't have been relevant at that time. Because what she's focused on is the same thing that all of us are focusing on when she says it, or when we hear her say it. And that is, well, nobody knew Colin was in the house yet. So this is clear. This is a very clear indication that the conversation between her and Colin, the text message communications that they allegedly take a screenshot of and then bring into court as proof that Allie picked up Colin, did not exist on January 29th of 2022. No chance. This sentence right here proves it definitively.
They are not suspects in any crime. They are merely witnesses in the case. To have them accused of murder is outrageous. To have them harassed and intimidated based on false narratives and accusations is wrong. They are witnesses doing what our justice system asks of them.
Correct?
No, it wouldn't have been relevant at that time.
Okay.
I believe, because Colin was not at the house and wasn't introduced as being there until later. I believe, because Colin was not at the house and wasn't introduced as being there until later.
oh boy, Allie's in big trouble now. So she couldn't let it go. So she has to give us more information. She wants to explain what that statement meant. And now we have a reduction in commitment with I believe. And then she screws up royally. She throws in because, an explanatory statement followed by was not. An uncontracted negative statement. This is a monumental screw up for Ellie McCabe, and it is definitive deception. So, if she's saying Colin was not at 34 Fairview at the time that John was there, then what are we obviously forced to believe? Because we know this is definitive deception. I mean, it is definitive. So now, number one, we know those conversations between Colin and Allie did not exist on January 29th of 2022. And now we know from Allie that Colin was at the house. What a surprise.
The autopsy of John O'Keefe was conducted by a forensic pathologist from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner.
Did you evaluate it all in your autopsy? Whether Mr. O'Keefe had any injuries consistent with a motor vehicle accident? Objection.
I'll allow that. Yes, I did examine his lower extremities. That is protocol in any case of suspected impact with a motor vehicle. So I did examine his legs and I did not see any evidence of an impact site. What I look for is some sort of bruise either on the outside of the leg or bleeding on the inside after the skin is reflected in the soft tissues, or any fracture of the bones of the legs. I did not observe those things.
The doctor found that the injuries that left John helpless in the cold were not a result of a fight.
Blunt
impact. So that's a blunt, in your opinion, that's a blunt impact injury, correct?
Correct.
So is it correct that that injury had to occur in some manner other than falling backwards and hitting one's head?
Yes.
And is that injury consistent or inconsistent with a punch?
Could be consistent.
She further found that the line of abrasions on his arm was consistent with blunt trauma, not an animal attack.
And is it correct that you, in your autopsy report, did not determine the cause of those wounds to Mr. O'Keefe's right arm?
That's correct.
Michael Proctor.
The agency behind Massachusetts public defense attorney says every case involving former state trooper Michael Proctor and recently resigned Canton Sergeant Sean Good should be re-examined in the wake of Karen Reed's new lawsuit. It revealed alarming new text messages from both men.
The state police trooper being accused of planting evidence outside 34 Fairview Road was never at Fairview Road on the day of the incident.
The Committee for Public Counsel Services says the racist, sexist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, and otherwise hateful messages exchanged by former Trooper Michael Proctor and former Sergeant Sean Good are deeply troubling. Adding the messages point to serious bias and misconduct and raise immediate concerns about the fairness of cases in which they were involved.
Proctor and his state police partner traveled together the entire day while other officers were processing 34 Fairview. Trooper Proctor was not there and did not plant evidence at 34 Fairview Road.
Did you plant evidence?
Absolutely not. And I'm laughing because it's such a ridiculous accusation. It's something I would never do. I've never done.
You know, most people would.
And there's no evidence of it.
These distorted worldviews were shaped by unimaginable hatred and intolerance through which they dehumanized others, often wishing violence or death on them, demeaning them, or even suggesting planting evidence on them to cause them harm.
In addition to having no opportunity to plant the evidence, as has been suggested, Proctor would have no motive to do so.
Colin, Chris, and Julie Albert have all known State Police Detective Michael Proctor for decades. And as luck would have it, Proctor ended up being assigned lead investigator for O'Keefe's murder.
And he had no reason to step out of this investigation. Every suggestion to the contrary is a lie.
7-year-old Colin was the ring bearer in Proctor's sister Courtney's wedding. There's pictures of Colin and his family all over Courtney's Facebook page. And Proctor's own mother referred to the Alberts as a, quote, second family. Yet Proctor did not recuse himself from the investigation or disclose this close relationship. In fact, he denied knowing that when he testified in front of the grand jury that indicted Reed. He said he didn't know him.
You were tasked with the responsibility of making sure that the investigation remained free of any conflicts of interest. That's part of your job, correct?
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
So your question is whether he said this?
Correct. Whether that's his testimony. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And that's your testimony that you, in fact, told members of the DA's office that you did not know and did not have a relationship with the Alberts or McCabe's. Is that right?
I did not know the McCabe's. I don't know most of the Alberts, and I have little to no relationship with Chris and Julie. So that's what I meant by that answer.
Well, the question wasn't, did you know most of the Alberts? The question was, did you have a relationship with, or did you know the Alberts? And your answer was, no.
No, I don't have a relationship with the Alberts.
Or know them.
I don't know the McCabe's. I don't have a relationship with the Alberts.
So you do know the Alberts, correct?
I know some of them, Julie and Chris.
And Colin, correct?
Correct, and Colin.
And you knew the Alberts when you gave this testimony in February of 2024. Is that right?
Yeah, they asked if there was any relationships.
And let's try this again. Meaning you told First Assistant Beeland that you didn't have relationships with members of the Alberts and members of the Albert and McCabe families. Answer, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Was that ambiguous in your mind?
The way I interpreted relationships was basically being like friends or, communications, frequent communications. That's how I interpreted
Well, that might have been a good time to pipe up and say, well, I know Chris and I know Julie and I know Colin, correct?
Objection. Karen discovered by researching the Albert and Proctor families on social media this was a lie. Throughout the investigation, Proctor went out of his way to protect the McAlberts.
This is incredibly serious and really has opened up an entire new dimension to what Proctor may have been doing.
This should be seen for what it is and not used as a pretext to attack and harass others. What is happening to the witnesses, some with no actual involvement in the case, is wrong. It is contrary to the American values of fairness.
The Public Defender's Agency is asking state police and the Norfolk DA for an accounting on all cases involving Proctor & Good so they can review for bias.
And the constitutional value of a fair trial. It needs to stop now.
And we're all rowing in the same direction just to uncover the truth.
Yeah.
It's true. It's and we all were. It's like there was nothing nefarious about what any of us were doing. We all, and it's not just about Karen Reed. It's about John O'Keefe. Okay, John O'Keefe was a human being who I'd never met before, who was left in the cold to die, and who deserves answers. He deserves a thorough investigation. He didn't get that. He was treated like a vagrant found on the street would get a more thorough investigation.
It is August 10th, 11:45 a.m. Location is the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, 45 Sharman Road in Canton. This is Trooper Michael Proctor, along with
Sergeant Yuri Buchanan, spelled Yuri-Buchanenik, with the Norfolk District Attorney's Office.
And this is the interview with
Brian Lockman, Loughren.
Okay. Why don't we start with the night of the 29th, and whatever you can recall to the best of your recollection. Were you working, and kind of just walk us through what time you were called out and just everything you can recall at this point. Do you recall the subcontractor that night?
Believe I had, it was By the Yard Landscape, and I can't honestly
remember if I had a second one.
Oh, that's fine.
You remembering this snowstorm, is there a reason behind it? Like, what's the reason behind this, you remembering this day and this snowstorm?
I believe it or not, I know. I remember a lot of my stuff when it comes to the work.
Was this a significant snow amount fall that was forecasted that day?
I believe it was 18 inches.
18 inches of snow that was coming?
Yep.
Do you remember any obstructions that you had to call in the police for that was obstructing the removal of snow for you that day?
There was a vehicle there around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning in front of 34 Fairview.
Oh, there was a vehicle?
Correct.
Okay. Do you recall what kind of vehicle it was?
Ford Edge.
Ford Edge?
Yes.
And where along the property do you remember it to be parked?
It was parked looking at the front door. It was to the left of the front door.
So it was on the street?
Correct.
It was on the street. Which way was it facing? Towards Cedar Crest or Chapman?
Chapman.
So it's parked towards Chapman on Cedar Crest, on Fairview, and it's to the left of the front door?
Correct.
Or to the left of the driveway?
It was to the left of the driveway. The door is to the left of the driveway too.
Okay, how many spots up from the mailbox / driveway would you remember it being parked that day or that night?
I would say it was probably 4 or 5 spots up from the driveway.
Okay. Was there anybody in the vehicle?
Not that I recognize. I don't.
Was the vehicle running?
No.
Did you notice footprints in the snow around the vehicle before you plowed?
No.
Did you notice any snow footprints leading away from the vehicle, towards the property, towards the driveway, towards the back of the house, towards the front of the house? Any of those?
No.
Would you remember if you saw that, something like that?
Yes.
Did you have to call Canton PD to have that vehicle removed, or have them knock on the door to get the vehicle removed, or did you kind of, on your second swipe, did you have to notify Canton PD to get the vehicle removed?
No.
And you wonder, why would Proctor ask that question? Is he asking, is there a paper trail of what you saw? Is there anybody else that can verify what you saw besides your word?
Was the vehicle removed for any reason while you were plowing that day?
Not that I'm aware of by any other sources other than them driving it away.
Okay.
Was that the only time you saw the Ford Edge? So on your second pass?
It was there for a significant period of time. It was there for at least an hour into the storm. It wasn't enough that it required me to have it removed. There wasn't a lot of snow on the ground at that time, and I could just go around it. And
if you did see a body in the roadway or on the side of the road, would you call it in?
Absolutely.
But that day you didn't see anything suspicious?
No.
Does that mean that there was definitely no body there, or do you think it might have been obstructed by something if you were driving by, or what's your understanding of it?
I saw no body. My truck is high enough with the lights that I would have seen a body. I can't answer to say if there was something obstructing me. I didn't see anything obstructing me.
That's good. Go ahead.
Okay.
11 minutes into this 46-minute long interview, Proctor moves on to asking about a blogger named Turtleboy. Never goes back to the questions about the Ford Edge again.
Than John O'Keefe got. And it's outrageous. And like I said, Colin Albert wasn't even interviewed by the police until 18 months afterwards, and only in regards to witness intimidation.
Colin was in the house, just FYI. He was in the house.
And the thing is, if intention is the silver star in the sky here, which it is, because witness intimidation is going to come down to the intention of Aidan Kearney. And isn't it interesting that Michael Morrissey and his little minions would actually have a file called intent on their computer in the district attorney's office? The lead detective, Brian Tully, where inside it is a link to Turtleboy's show episodes, however conveniently retitled to change the intention of the show itself, to make jurors believe that Aidan's intent was dramatically different from what it actually was. Now, I ask you, if the prosecutor has to go to such great lengths to change or misrepresent the intention of their alleged defendant, the person that they're charging with a crime, mind you, that has upwards to 100 years in prison attached to it, if that prosecutor's office has to misrepresent the intention of the so-called defendant, it just might be the case that there wasn't any intent to begin with, and they know it.
It is the defense counselor's duty to protect the rights of the individual, as it is the prosecution's duty to uphold and defend the laws of the state. Justice for all. Only we have a problem here.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through eyes covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright.
This is me reminding you once again to like the video, like this video, like the video, like this video right now.